Hello everybody, welcome back in. This is the 7th live trading session, I believe. I think it's the 7th one, but regardless, we're back hoping to analyze through some of the live markets for you and show you our bias and potentially look to take some trades alongside that. So there we are. The camera is not in a good angle whatsoever. Let's sort that out. That will do. Potentially need to also shut the blinds slightly. So if you give me 1 second, I'll get that done. If anybody is in here, make sure to say hello. And give me 5 seconds. Okay. Let's have a look at the volume mixer just to make sure that the music isn't too loud. Potentially need to turn it down slightly. It's tough because some songs come on that are louder than others, so it's hard to tell. But regardless, as I said, anybody who is in here, make sure to say hello. Anyways, potentially now, just going to look through the euro to the US dollar market. So this is what we've got up on screen, and pretty much the reason I'm liking this is just because if we scroll out, the price trade is up. We tapped into a supply zone higher up here. After doing so, or in the process of doing so, sorry, we had this level of liquidity that we built up, so we induced sellers into the market, and then we blew through it with high volume. It also came to tap that point of interest that we wanted it to. We then came down, delivered a displacement, and then after this displacement, obviously we can see on the lower time frames we've had some, well, assuming impulse, correction, impulse, we've obviously displaced, coming up for another correctional wave, and in my eyes the most ideal position for this correctional wave to go to is this unmitigated position that has some slight inefficiency below. So we were actually looking for buying opportunities to try and take price up into that zone. There's also the opportunity that price could break this lower time frame protected high to come up and mitigate one of the two zones here that have been left unmitigated from that move lower. So as of right now, if we go back into what price is doing, you can see that there was a trading opportunity we were looking to take. Price reacted quite nicely to this zone. Initially it seemed to take off without tapping it, but all this did was create liquidity just next to the zone, and then we saw that push through. We had somewhat of an accumulation on the 5 second time frame. Obviously we can see phase A, a lot of liquidity build up, a nice sign of strength. After the sign of strength, we've had the spring to clear all liquidity that has been built up, and then you'll see this wick comes back to tap us into the last sell to buy or to test and mitigate the spring. So we could have looked to enter there, and then after that price did initially take off quite nicely, hitting a break of structure or a partial for around 4 RR. And then we seem to lose a lot of volatility. Price then struggled to make any moves higher, which then takes us to where we are now, where price has obviously fallen through. We then look to identify different zones that price could then react to as demand. These two being the two zones that we were looking at. Unfortunately, price has actually blown through the first of the two, but it could potentially trade as this low down. And then the argument is, if it does trade as this low down, evidently there's a lot of supply in the market, so if it's going to trade as that low, what's the point in not just breaking structure and putting that next impulsive wave lower? So just going to keep an eye on this now. Need to fully understand what price is doing here. I don't want to sell into the market on the off chance that price does want to react here. So it's going to be a waiting game until price taps us into that zone. So until then, we can sort of leave this market on the back burner and potentially look at something else. So here, the Great British Pound to the Japanese Yen. We see that we've had some displacement of the lows. So where we were looking to continue this market bullish by taking a buy position here, we can see that price has actually displaced that low, taken a push lower, which can then be taken as an impulsive wave. So this entire move is an impulse lower, but then inside of this move, the only unmitigated positions in my eyes, if we just get rid of all the draw-ins, would be this zone here, so the last buy to sell here, and then also the last buy to sell in this region. Of course, we can see prices already broken through that, so we have had a lower time frame displacement. So at this point, we're potentially looking to try and buy price up into this supply zone. So that's a current bias for that. If we go lower, now using that bias that we have, that we could potentially look to buy price up, we have a nice demand zone here that price has recently tapped into. We've had some consolidation, so obviously there is some reversal power within this zone. Straight after, price made a push higher. We are just consolidating, but if we do get delivered a displacement of this high, I think that would be confirmation for me to then want to look to take price long. But as of right now, it is more of a waiting game for us. As stated with this market, we could arguably look to sell, but to me it's not confirmed enough that I want to do that. So I'm just going to hold off, take a quick scan of gold, potential for a nice trade there. It seems like we've had price, nice bit of inducement and momentum that's tapped into the last buy to sell in this region. If we just go slightly lower, maybe we can see. Okay, yeah, it was quite simply the last buy candle in this region that it seems that price has reacted to. The real question is, were all zones higher actually mitigated? So, as we've been making pushes down, yeah, we tap into that candle. I guess this wick actually taps into this candle, but then nothing comes to tap into this. So yeah, arguably that was the last unmitigated region. And then we have a nice example of inducement and momentum. So some liquidity built up, high volume pushed through liquidity, a displacement, and then prices continue to trade. Now, I'm quite liking the idea that we could eventually see price traders back up into this, depending on how much it wants to respect our structural and strategy laws. So we can identify this as a point of interest. As stated, it would be quite nice to see price actually traders back up into this unmitigated position. It's been moving pretty nice. Obviously, our final target for price as of current is going to be the low, so that we can continue bearishness. So we can just identify this as a final target. So there's been some quite nice opportunities. I was actually trying to get in on price after this move, but price never really retraced high enough into the refined zones. Price did, however, trade us up into the entire buy to sell, so did technically mitigate it. I was just expecting a more full mitigation. A zone here that was never tapped. A couple of opportunities on the lower time frames down here. And then the really nice opportunity that I saw last week and actually sent out into the VIP chat was the idea that price will more than likely go bearish after the tap into that, which is what's happened. We've had some nice volatility introduced to the downside, but then from here, obviously, another retracement back up, a nice distribution or an example of inducement and momentum. We've had the mitigation, we've had the displacements lower, so now we want to try and get involved on a retracement to then go short. So if we actually mark that out, we've had a nice displacement of this region. Take that to the bottom, slightly larger text, and we can see that price has actually displaced this high. So obviously this being a single impulse down, it seems like we could be looking at another correctional wave. If that's the case, as stated, it'd be nice to potentially see price traders up to around 1830.25. So could potentially see price traders up to that. And then if so, finding that entry confirmation, hopefully riding price down to this final target where our take profit would be, or we could look to the partial, maybe 80% of the position at that region. But we're just going to wait now. We can also put an alert at the final target, add alert, just to see what price does. Obviously we're sort of holding now at the low 1800s, potentially breaching back down into the 1700s after a large bullish run. So let's actually just clear a lot of this analysis, because realistically that's all irrelevant now. So yeah, quite a nice distribution here in the market. We've gone lower. Obviously this move came up, pretty much create some equal highs there. So arguably it is going to be tough to decide where price is wanting to move from now. I would quite like to see price actually just make a move through this level, because there is literally just so much liquidity sat at this 1675, and overall I think at some point price is probably going to want to make a run for that. As I stated, there isn't really any downside targets for price as of right now, and there isn't really any demand zones that I would argue price is looking to react from. So at this point, my only bias is that price should arguably continue to bleed out, and as it is still doing so with a lot of high volume, I'm just going to assume that we're going to have a continuation of that, and hopefully keep finding sell entry opportunities. Now anybody who is in here and watching right now, if you just want to say hello in chat or even ask a question, just so we can get some engagement up and see how everybody is. On top of that, if there is any markets you want me to take a look at, make sure to just let me know. So we've had a quick look at the Great British Pound to the Japanese Yen, the Euro to US dollar, and now a very quick scan over on the gold market. So we have our bias for that. Obviously we want price to eventually hit that final target, whether it does so now in this move or if we do manage to get a retracement back up. It could be an idea to also look inside of here. If we break this low, this would then obviously be the start of the next impulsive wave. So we'd be looking inside of this for some opportunities. In my eyes, nothing major. There's potentially something sort of within this region that would need mitigating, so we can leave that and just come back to see if price does have any form of reaction from it. Going back to this market, let's see what is happening. Obviously this was a zone that I was hoping to see price have some form of reaction from. It hasn't actually done so. It has been trading bearish since, but if we do manage to see a break of the highs, we may then start to look to go long once again. Any other markets? I guess we can have a look here at the pound dollar. My analysis has pretty much been disregarded, so everything inside of this zone, everything inside of here can go, and pretty much this is my only analysis for price, is for us to tap into this sort of wave of a buy to sell, refined more nicely to this last buy candle, which would be nice to see price react to. For some reason there is, why is the music on? Okay, we're back. Apologies, back to where we were. That is the only zone, ideally, I wanted to see price react to. Obviously, we've cleared a nice bit of liquidity in this region on top of that, which is always nice. And then there is a zone I identified here, which is from like the 4-hour time frame. So to me, that is one downside target that price may want to trade down to. So I'm expecting we are going to continue bearish. But looking here, obviously, price is going to need to put in some form of correctional wave. Obviously, we are doing that right now. It's just whether it reacts to this here, or whether we sort of break the lower time frame protected high, and then come to traders up to here, or if we protect that and actually reverse in there. So it's hard to tell. Price has obviously been falling with heavy bearish pressure for what, a good couple months now. So arguably it has been fairly hard to get involved on this market, but as of right now, obviously because we have cleared that liquidity, but we have also displaced the high, because in the scheme of things, obviously we've had impulse, correction, impulse. So breaking that is a break of what should have been a protected high. So we have got confirmed bullishness. So we could potentially say, well, we're inside of this, which would now act as an impulsive wave higher. Could we say that demand zones lay? So I'd have to go to a slightly lower time frame. Arguably, we have a zone down here. Then can we identify something lying inside of this region? That's quite a nice zone. Obviously, price already blown through that. So potentially we could be looking inside of here. Inside of this sort of region. So we can change that to a demand zone. Like so. This being our second demand zone. So we have two zones there that price could potentially react to, so we can get an alert on these. Add alert, perfect. And now we play the waiting game once again with this market. I guess we could even go lower if we wanted to, just to see if there's any sort of scalp-like opportunities. Although the market hasn't actually really reacted to anything that would provide such things. We have just broken what should have been a protected high in fractal structure. This obviously being now an impulsive wave up potentially. So could we identify demand zones, buying opportunities? Who knows, but we can come back to this market when it has followed our bias more likely, or we have tapped into a POI. Obviously, the reason I'm liking the idea of trading this market at the moment is because we have recently tapped into a point of interest and displaced. So this is the best opportunity for us to want to go short. So all we've had to do is be patient and wait for price to trade us up to a region where we can go short from. But in the meantime, because we are day traders, we're not just going to wait for these alerts to go off and wait for price to eventually trade us back into them. We're instead also going to look for intermediary positions we can take at the same time, which obviously after the displacement would be long positions, because we are looking to put in a correctional wave, which hopefully has the purpose of trading us high enough to tap into a zone. Seems sort of just consolidating. We are about to enter the New York trading session. For some reason, the connection seems to be going off. It's not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. So it seems here that there's been a little blip in the internet. Never ideal. If you just give it a couple of minutes, we should be back to normal. We should be back fine. I'll see if I can potentially get it up myself just to see what the quality is really like. Okay, so for me, I mean, the quality isn't awful, so maybe YouTube is just lying to me a little bit there. It could definitely be better, but as long as it's okay still. What does it let me go to? I mean, it's still allowing 720p, so you know, we look all good there. We do look all good. We should be okay. Once again, anybody who is watching right now, if you could just say hello in the chat, let me know that you're in here. So if it is any familiar faces, we can just see who is continuing to support us. As of right now, we are pretty much just playing the waiting game. There's a few markets we've done a bit of analysis on and that we're hoping to find positions from. But yeah, it is literally, as of current, just a waiting game. Because we're just waiting for some of our alerts to ping, and until that happens, there's not much that we can actually do. But as always, if there is any markets you would like me to take a look over, do make sure to let me know. Craig S, first time here. Hey Craig, hope you're doing well. Welcome in to another live trading session. We tend to do maybe 2 of these every single week over on the LAGFX channel. Pretty much its main purpose is for people who follow us or are in the VIP chat or affiliated with LAGFX. It allows them just to come over and see what we're looking at for the day, what opportunities we're potentially looking to capitalize on. But at the same time, it also allows new people like yourself to come on into the stream, see how we do things, and if you like that, then potentially even giving us a subscribe or a follow to the channel, because we have plenty of content on here. Similar to this, we have educational videos on different concepts within our strategies. We have a weekly Forex analysis video, and then also our trading couch, where it's sort of like a mini podcast style video, but plenty of stuff to do. Craig, do you trade Forex yourself? Are you in any way related to it, or are you just here to sort of be introduced to it and see what it's all about? Okay, so we have actually now broken one of the highs, so we'll have to see here what price does. As I was stating, no real zone that prices come to mitigate here. I was hoping for it to hold this one, but unfortunately it did not. But if we see this high get broken, which is right now the current protected high, we can start to look once again for long opportunities. We're sort of just in an unconfirmed region, so we kind of just have to give it maybe 10 minutes. Just until a more confirmed bias comes along. Have some experience looking to get back in. Perfect. Well, I think the best thing with Forex is, you know, if you've been in it prior or beforehand and you have somewhat of a strategy created, obviously you can somewhat easily sort of get back into it and ease back in. But if there is any questions you have or any markets you'd like me to take a look at, make sure to let me know. I know you stated you are actually new to the channel, so we do have a free group chat here, the LAGFX Learning Lounge. This is quite a nice place to be if you are wanting to get back in. A lot of analysis is posted daily. Also on top of that, we have educational posts, And what you can do when you get into this group chat is you can simply click on the name, you go to photos, and you can scroll down, and there's, I think, pretty much 2 years worth of content in here. A lot of education, a lot of analysis. Obviously, as you can see, there's also some fundamental news we put through. Our Sunday sessions video, the fundamental report that I actually write up every single week for people in the learning lounge. So we pretty much write out and explain every single fundamental that is to come out in that week. As I said, also analysis, or letting you know any trades that we have been looking to capitalize on. Also some profit sheets. So lots of stuff there. And we also have the VIP chats, which is a whole other thing, but worth noting that Luke himself placed a trade on the Great British Pound to the Australian dollar, so we can actually get that up. So he bought at 17666. Which would be right here, by the looks of it. And then we know that, we just move that over onto the second screen, the SL was 17646. Take profit was 186.7. Takes us to a 20 to 1 or a 1 to 20 trade. We have now just had a displacement of the high. So some potential confirmation there that price will continue higher. We could arguably be looking for a retracement into some form of demand zone, which could be seen at this level. Then also at one of the levels down here. So we can sort of just wait to see how price reacts to us from now. I'm assuming that the shorter term final target for price after we broke this high and then held the low is going to be that this would be the final target shorter term. So hoping to, I guess, see this market actually trade us back up to that. We've had a nice displacement now, so some nice confirmation that it'll go bullish, but yeah, a brilliant trade here caught by Luke. LAGFX, hi mate, you okay? Yeah, all good today, all good. Markets currently in a slightly slower period. They did provide some opportunities maybe a couple hours ago. We're sort of within a slower region, so waiting for half one to come around because we have some news coming out then which could potentially introduce the volatility we need. As of right now, just sort of looking at some markets, doing a bit of analysis, and showcasing a trade that Luke placed that is running, let's see actually, at peak 40 pips, as of right now 35, so just shy of 2 RR or 4%. Definitely look to refine some of the zones inside of this. That's a POI. Let's head back on over to the euro to US dollar. This is obviously the market I've been watching. Potentially wanting to see this high get displaced, and then if so, we can start to look to go long once again. Yeah, Craig, if you're still here, make sure to just check out the description of this live stream, and it will have a link to the LAGFX Learning Lounge. So as I was saying, if you want just some daily information, daily updates and whatnot, just click that link. It will take you over to the Telegram group chat. Obviously, it's completely free to get involved. Even if you don't find it that helpful, you know, it's not that bad just to have in the background, because as I said, it's free. You're not losing anything, but you potentially have a lot to gain. If anyone has any questions or any markets they're looking at, or a bias on a market that you want me to sort of have a look over, make sure to let me know. As stated, I'm literally now just waiting for price to surpass this level, and then once it does, we can then look to see how to tackle the market moving forward. So pretty much it's going to be a waiting game for the next couple of minutes, but then after that we can sort of look to dive in and find some potential opportunities. So as stated, we're literally just waiting for this level to get broken to reconfirm that bullishness is continuing. Unfortunately, we weren't able to catch a position in here because I was expecting price to react to this last sell to buy. We can see it just actually tapped through. Not too sure why it's done that, but we don't need to worry about that. We just need to worry ourselves about how can we tackle the market moving forward. And there we go, we have blown through. So that is a confirmation that we were looking for. So we can now look inside of this level and say, right, where inside of here is representing a nice position where a demand zone could be remaining. So realistically, we have this level. Could also argue that we have this level down here. So obviously we made some displacements. The higher time frame displacement came right here as well. So this is very nice to see because we've had both a fractal and a higher time frame displacement. So this then becomes a single impulse up, the correctional wave. We've then had the displacement, so confirming that we should now be creating a new impulsive wave. Hopefully this impulsive wave will either take price up to this demand zone, or it will break structure and then trade us back up into one of the zones higher. Either way, I think we have a nice bias here and some nice ideas on how we can tackle the market, whether it be buys into a supply zone or sells from the supply zone when price does eventually approach that. So these are the two current demand zones we are looking at to potentially go long from, but we just obviously need to see price start to trade us back down, and some of the demand to get exhausted in the lower time frame scheme. But one thing just to make sure, there is some news coming out at 1:30. We take a look at that. So we have the CPI, or also known as the Consumer Price Index, from Canada at 1:30 p.m. GMT, which for me is exactly 17 minutes away. So just being cautious, potentially avoiding placing any form of trade until the volatility from that fundamental news has died down. So maybe 10 to 15 minutes after the news has been released. So probably won't be looking to place for another half an hour for now, but we can sort of look to analyze the charts and find how we would like to tackle them, given however price does play out. We did have some news for the Great British Pound today, which would make sense because we have had some volatility on that market, or with that currency, should I say. So quite a big change here. Changing the price of goods and services purchased by consumers. We've obviously had a big change, so definitely a sign of inflation there. We also updated this in the Learning Lounge. As you can see, the message says UK inflation up to 9% in April. The United Kingdom's Consumer Price Index increased by 9% in April compared to the same month a year ago. So obviously previous was 7%, so 2% higher than it was previously. And we can see here we have been slowly increasing. We've had 5, 5.4, 5.5, 6.27, and then a big jump from 7% to 9%. So not great for the currency, because obviously inflation means that interest rates are likely to rise. So there we have that. Obviously looking at Canada, forecasted is 0.5%. So realistically for them, nothing too concerning, just because that would not indicate that inflation has risen massively, and actually, if anything, has gone down a lot since the last month. So we'll just see what happens with the market. But yeah, just sort of holding off for the next 15 minutes from placing, just until some of those fundamentals have come out and we gain an idea of what will happen from them. So a bit of consolidation. Price may be ready now to put a correction wave back down into one of these zones where we could potentially find long opportunities. It's all just a waiting game. I'm liking the look of this market today. So anyone who is in the chat, whether you are just looking, any questions or any markets you'd like me to take a look at, now is the opportunity to ask. It can help you confirm your bias if you have a full-time trader, obviously give you their bias as well on the market you're looking at. Even if you were to just ask somebody who isn't a full-time trader, I know I always enjoyed, when I was first getting into it, just speaking between friends about what we were seeing on the same market. Just nice to have mixed opinions and see how other people are viewing that market. It is always nice. But yeah, just a waiting game currently. We can sort of have a browse over at some more markets just to see what is going on with them. A lot of consolidation in this market. As with that, still no displacement delivered on this market. Correctional wave being put in place here, and then the gold market that we were looking at, again, consolidation. Nothing major has changed since we were last looking, so hopefully we do get a bit more volatility, just so it makes the trading session a bit more lively. Because we've done a nice bit of analysis now, we are literally just waiting for alerts to be pinged. So there's not much more we can do, unfortunately. I will soon take us through a full top-down analysis on a market, just so you can see how I do go about analysing a new market. Just making sure there is no questions. Doesn't seem so. Okay, so let's pick a random market. What markets have I not looked at? Okay, I don't often look at the Swiss franc, so we can look for any markets here. Forex, euro to the Swiss franc. Okay. I mean, why not? Okay, quite a wild market here, which is obviously bearish. Impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse. We put in a correctional wave. We then have another impulse to break structure. We've then had another correctional wave back up, which taps us into the regions up here. So obviously, most recent impulsive wave would have been this. We'd have been looking inside of that for zones that we could look to sell from. Realistically, that is probably one of the only zones in that, because it is just such a heavy move lower. We have traded back up to it. In doing so, we had a displacement here. Prices then continued to trade us bearish. So we've had impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse here. So this is the most recent impulsive wave. We can now go slightly lower just to look inside of this. And then we can argue, well, where are some unmitigated positions that we would quite like price to come and tap us into? We could argue we have a nice buy to sell candle here that does clear some liquidity. So we can change that to a point of interest. We can also look further up inside of this to determine if there is anywhere else. This is another nice zone, just because we have high volume push up that also does come to clear liquidity. And other than that, potentially this as well. That's pretty much what we're seeing there. So having that bias, we understand that price should want to trade higher until we do sort of reach one of those regions. So you've just broken structure here. So in terms of more fractal structure, we've had impulse, correction, impulse. So if we do put in a correctional wave, where might price want to actually trade us down to? Could argue that there's something sort of here, definitely a zone here that we might have just mitigated. Let's see, we're gonna have to go to a slightly lower time frame. It's potentially a nice zone here, where we have had that sell to buy candle, which has arguably been tapped and reversed from. And then we could also argue that there is a nice position left over inside of this. Right there. hour. Drag that out. Okay, so these are the zones we could be looking at. Obviously price has tapped into this. Going from this, yeah, we have had the displacement of this. Just take this as an impulse, so impulse correction, impulse correction, impulse. Okay, so we want something inside of this impulse that needs mitigating, which could ideally act as either one of these two zones, as a matter of fact. So we can come back to that and we can see if price does eventually trade us back into one of these zones, where I think it will need to mitigate before making any moves higher. So a nice easy top down there. I guess arguably we could go even lower, but I just saw how much consolidation there was within this, and it doesn't look very nice. There's nowhere that arguably has been left unmitigated. We could argue that that taps into that. Yeah, so that's about everything we can do on that market. Once again, any questions, make sure to let us know. Or any markets you potentially want me to take a quick look at, again, just let me know. So yeah, still just waiting around. It's now 1:25, so 5 minutes away from the CPI. So we just update that into the VIP chat and let everybody know that there is some fundamental news being released in 5 minutes, just to make sure everybody is aware. Okay, so just making sure everybody is aware that we do have fundamental news being released in 4 minutes. So as of right now, we're literally just waiting around for that fundamental news to be released, because we're not looking to execute any trades around it. And also the markets usually are slightly less volatile because people are waiting for the news release. Probably see how evident that is in this region, the Euro USD being probably the most liquid market out of all Forex markets in the world. We can see that we've had a lot of volatility throughout the day, as we usually do, but then approaching the New York session open, we've had some consolidation as people just prepare to see what this fundamental news actually brings to the market. So 3 more minutes, just waiting for that. And there is a lot of information we gain here. We have Canada's regular CPI, the common CPI, the median CPI, and the trimmed CPI, all of which are going to give us some great insights into how inflation has been changing in the country. So we're just waiting on that, and then we can see how much they do actually deviate away from forecast, and if that's quite a bit, then we can expect volatility to be introduced, whether that be financial confidence or financial worry in that currency. We will find out when it is released. But as of right now, it's just a waiting game. Just wait and see what happens. I would advise anybody who is holding trades, just be cautious, you know, don't worry too much, but just make sure you do have risk management measures in place to ensure that if volatility is to be introduced, you are covered and somewhat safe. As we can see, all of this is to be released in 1 minute. All of this news, so affecting the Canadian dollar and the US dollar. We're just waiting for the results in exactly 1 minute. So just being cautious with trading until this news is released, and then we can also see how it is affecting the markets when it is released. So not long now, maybe 30 seconds, and then we'll look to refresh that and see what the results were, or the actual results. Again, the more it deviates away from the forecast. So as we can see on this line, we have our forecast. Now, the more that this deviates away from it, the more, oh, he's had a voice break, the more volatility we can see introduced. So obviously, with the Great British Pound, we were saying that from the previous result, we've gone up 2%. So obviously, that's quite a big change. A great indication that inflation is increasing in Great Britain. So obviously, that did have an effect on the markets. See if we can get those results. Here we go. A lot better than expected. We can see it has deviated quite a lot, actually. You know, a 0.4 increase on that, 0.5, 0.3, 0.1. So a lot of increasing on this, which could be strong for currency. Now, let's check out the market, see what's happened. Nothing major. We are back to having some volatility, but let us actually have a look at any market that has the Canadian dollar involved. There we go. We can see obviously had a lot of downside volatility. Where we can see that on the actual release we've had a heavy push down. On this market, nothing too major, but it has introduced the volatility we were saying that we needed, just to push the market down slightly. See if we can get a result for that one as well. So that anybody who is watching, whether that be live or watching it back, this is pretty much just how I look to trade around fundamentals. I just look to hold off from placing anything too close, or I will look to manage any trades I do have held, whether that be moving SL to entry or taking partials or whatnot, just to ensure that if something did happen to the market, which does sometimes happen, like when we have a fundamental news release that is highly respectable, it can introduce that much volatility into the market that we can just move like 40, 50, 60 pips within 5 minutes, which can obviously just absolutely blow your stop loss. At the same time, it could blow your take profit, of course, yes, but at that point we are literally just gambling, and as traders we're never looking to gamble. We're looking to follow a set strategy with a list of rules that has an edge in the market that is more likely to win than it is to lose. It doesn't appear that we're going to get given this fundamental, but regardless, we have what we need to know. Obviously all of these green, so that means it's good for the currency, good for the Canadian dollar, which is why the euro to the Canadian dollar market did depreciate, because obviously the Canadian dollar appreciated against the euro, so that market fell. Because the US dollar and the Canadian dollar are very slightly correlated, probably also why we've seen this market depreciate slightly, where it has tapped us into a demand zone. It has also delivered us with a potential displacement, so let's see how price reacts if we maybe come back down to tap into somewhere. Could be looking for some long opportunities. Just need to see what price does here. The thing that I like is obviously we've had from here to here an impulse. We see price retrace back up, so this has obviously been broken, what could have potentially been a protected high, which can be fractal confirmation of a displacement. So I'd like just to see price sort of like trade back down, tap into somewhere, start making moves higher, and then potentially finding long entries or long opportunities. Although there is no obvious or major unmitigated demand zone in that region, so we are just going to have to let price play until something more solid appears for us. Right now, I think that we do now have a region inside of this that could act as a zone. Obviously, maybe you could have had a pending order sat at this demand zone looking to take buys. I personally don't like using pending orders, so that's not something I've done or will have done, but hopefully price will deliver us some opportunity to enter. There's just so much volatility reintroduced to the upside again. But it's a waiting game. Let's just see what happens. We could actually look to potentially have a pending order here now that we've had confirmation of displacements and whatnot. So I more than likely would be looking at something like this. So we just see what price does. Just to see how price continues to play. Just a waiting game. Let's see if price does tap us in at all, potentially giving us entry opportunity. We shall see. We shall see what happens. Apologies if the mic made a lot of noise and I just needed to move it slightly. Okay, So the fact that price is very hesitant to actually make this move lower does indicate we have a nice bit of supply in the market. Arguably not going to mitigate anything from the deal. Reacting to an obvious sell to buy, displacing the market. Okay, so yeah, does look pretty promising. Just reminding ourselves that the stop loss here is around 0517. Take profit around 0535. There we go. Now just waiting to see if price does tap us into this. It is filling in some nice inefficiencies there. Just have to see what price does. We are starting to see some hesitation as we approach this level. Can we get a proper tap though, is the real question. We're now hesitating just above, building some liquidity so we can see a sharp push lower, and then an instant reaction from the zone. I think then a buy position would be very nice. So we've got to imagine, because of all this consolidation that's currently happening in that region, we have sort of traded down. We are just now consolidating. We've had like a sign of strength introduced. Price is sort of holding back down. We want to see price blow through, give us displacements, and then continue higher. With this move, or the spring tapping us into this region. Here we go, we've got some volatility. Potentially now waiting to see if price does trade us low enough into the zone. This is nice though. Price may just take off. That does happen. If so, we've just missed the opportunity just because price didn't tap us in, which is completely fine. We can see there was just so much demand getting introduced, like price was very much struggling here. And unfortunately, no crazy opportunity. However, we could see a retracement back down to tap us into sort of this region. That move obviously showing signs that there is a lot of demand in the market currently. If it takes off from now, then you know that is just unfortunate. An entry was missed, but it is what it is. I was pretty much looking to enter. As stated, I just wanted to see price sort of build up this liquidity like we've done in this region. I just want to see a sharp push down, us wick, come straight back up, and then the second we saw price off at this level, showing signs of wanting to push higher, that is then when I would look to enter. But as we said, unfortunately we didn't see that. It's absolutely fine. Now we just continue to let price play. It is unfortunate we didn't get the tab. I was waiting for an entry there, literally hovering over the buy button, but that stuff happens. And now we just wait. Now we just wait until price continues moving forward, until we're delivered something else that we quite like the look of and want to trade. But just understanding, potentially if we go on a 1 second, we might be able to see it. It's tough to see, but in this region, if we sort of just draw out what was actually happening, we can see that if we actually just take this away, so we've literally just drawn what price is doing, and if we just take the drawing away alone, we can see that that does quite does look like quite a nice accumulation, because we've had some preliminary support, and if we stretch it out we can really see that. We've had that push lower, push down. We've then had a nice sign of strength because price is instantly reacting. We then push through, clearing liquidity, so this could potentially be the spring. Price then showing signs that demand has been introduced after the spring. We've had the test of the spring, the displacement. So the displacement, and then we trade in. So after the displacement we do something like this, and then obviously another push higher. So we've had that sign of strength afterwards. Fortunately, price never traded us back down to mitigate any of the positions down there, but the best part about that is, as stated, we go to a 1 second and we actually just follow exactly what price did. Oops, they're not actually together. We then see that price played out like this, which if we were to have actually seen that, we know that from that point that is an accumulation. Obviously when we're on these lower time frames it can be quite hard to spot them, but obviously we had a displacement of that high. It's just that move higher just happened so quick. It was difficult to get involved, but we can be patient from now. We can actually wait for price to break structure, so break this high, and if so, then start looking for entry opportunities again. Just a reminder that we may have actually looked to, because I didn't get involved in the trade, I didn't actually disclaim this, but we may have actually looked to partial at the previous high. So looked to partial either at this point at 8 RR, or even at this point at 3.5 RR, just to secure some profits at a level that price may potentially reverse from. It hasn't so far, but just wanted to disclaim that. What we can do is we can go to 15-second here and just get a screenshot of this, just to send through into the main chat. Partial, which has been spelled wrong. Great. So again, save chart image. Okay, so just making sure we take some screenshots as we trade these markets live, as we're doing our analysis, just so we can actually update that in a VIP chat, just to show the guys what we're looking at, how we look to tackle the markets and whatnot. Moving forward, where could price want to come and mitigate? Arguably, there's probably going to be something inside of this lower region. Nothing obvious though, which is tough to see because we've got such a big market gap. That's where it gets tough. and hard to really confirm exactly where price may want to mitigate. So I'm probably just going to leave that for now, just because I can't really identify a proper zone. But I guess, as I stated, we could just sort of say that we want price to mitigate something inside of this accumulation, having this as a demand zone. And everything else does look okay. Okay, so obviously, because the markets are arbitrary, it seems that we have sort of traded up into a last buy to sell, which I don't think it will reverse that, but price is just introducing a little bit of supply at that region. Even though I don't think it will give us a reversal, it still is introducing a little bit of supply. We just want to see that final target get hit. And I think what we'll do here is we'll probably stay live until around 2 o'clock. So a good hour and a half here. We obviously spent majority of the first half just analysing the markets. We then were quite cautious around the news, and then we've looked to actually try and tackle this market after the news release. Price been following our analysis pretty perfectly. Just whilst we let price continue to play there, let's arguably go to a different market just to see if anything nice has happened. We were delivered a displacement there. So what is price doing? Well, hopefully it has come to mitigate our last sell to buy down in this region, which it has just tapped. Obviously we can move that here. If so, and if we do see a reaction, we then look to get a buy position on partial in here, but then actually riding that all the way up into that zone higher. Let's once again look on a lower time frame just to see what has happened. Quite nice, some liquidity build up, a sharp push through. We want to see now the displacement of these highs. We have got a zone here that has been left mitigated. So I might argue that the second we displace those, look to get a buy position on this just below the last mitigate position, and then with a take profit all the way up. If we just squeeze this down all the way up there, partial at the previous high. So if you just bear with me whilst I update the analysis quickly. Partial here. So right there, a potential entry. We've now displaced that, so potential signs here now of an accumulation. Some people may not want to just enter right off the displacement, and instead will want to wait for price to reverse us down into a potential demand zone, which to me, if you were wanting to do that, would probably correspond with one of these two zones. We just shorten this so we can see fully what is going on. Although sometimes, like price is doing now, it does just shoot up with that much volume that it is really difficult to try and find these retracements back down. But obviously we can leave that there and just see how price reacts to that. So that is another thing that has been called. I honestly wouldn't be fully against placing just after the displacement, because we've already had the tap into that, the displacement, and then the tap back down into this. So that is already a lot of confirmation that price is wanting to make these moves higher. We could potentially, though, as we were stating, see price now traders lower into one of these. So if that is the case, we can sort of load up our MetaTrader and prepare for the potential opportunity that we get some entries. So looking, so this is the Great British Pound again. go. Are we going to see price react anywhere is the real question. We've come back down to what could have been an original entry. Now consolidating around this region. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we've come to test potentially now the reversal back higher. We're just going to be patient just to see fully what happens. Okay. Just want to make sure that this is a nice zone to be watching. I think probably refined to that. I don't know if that means that the zone holds. Yeah, it does. It does. Okay. See how price reacts here. Okay, so it's pretty much all on this. Does price react to this demand zone? If not, then obviously entry not valid. So although we could have got involved in a trade after the displacement, obviously this is the more confirmed way of doing so, is waiting to see if price does react to a zone. Now what I'd want to see is this high get broken. If so, probably having that stop just below. So entry here. Stop loss, I can't actually see where the very bottom of that lies, but potentially somewhere around there. I do first need to see this level get displaced. So we just got to see what price does. Because obviously we want price to not continue this bearishness because we want the continuation higher, so we're just waiting for that. Which is just a game of patience, always exciting. So we're just going to wait, and then as soon as this high, or if this high is broken, potential buy opportunities from there. Change up the music a bit. Okay, it seems like price is ready to potentially start trading us higher. Again, just want to see that level get broken before executing anything. So we are literally playing the waiting game, the oldest game in the book. Obviously wanting our stop loss. So about 160.04. That is me accounting for my spread. Everyone's spread is going to be different. Make sure you do account for your own spread whenever you place any trade. I am not advising anybody to place this. I am just stating myself that it is an entry I am looking to place. This is not financial advice. Obviously, anything you place is done so with your own discretion. Please understand that 80 to 90% of all traders lose money in the financial market, so trading does carry a lot of risk if it is not performed correctly. But yeah, just playing the waiting game right now, which is always exciting. just waiting for price to do something. Obviously, we're very unvolatile and sideways, which hopefully means that volatility is going to be introduced very soon. It seems like the supply and demand balance is sort of being absorbed and manipulated as of current, so be interesting to see what happens. I mean, whilst that happens, we can also look at Euro US dollar. Okay, so price has obviously been reacting. It did not actually exceed that final target. So if you look to partial there, obviously you'd already have secured profits. If you're waiting to partial a different high, obviously you probably wouldn't have hit that partial yet. But it just depends. Everybody manages their trades differently, as everybody should, because everybody will trade slightly differently anyway. Okay, still nothing obvious being delivered to us as of right now. So we are still playing the old waiting game. It seems like there's just not a lot of... Wow, why is music suddenly gone really loud? It seems like there just isn't a crazy amount of volatility in the market for me to be playing with today. This is strange. I have not seen such minuscule volatility like this for a long time. It just becomes quite hard to trade the markets because nothing has the volatility to play out in our desired direction. Potentially here, just as I say that, we do get some upside volatility. Apologies, which may potentially break that high that we were looking to be broken, or we come and break the low, invalidating this entire trade. Thankfully, we're not involved, even though this is sat here. This is just the trade that I'd like to place. But we'll see. Okay, we are showing signs of moving lower, so we could actually come now to disregard all of this. Literally just waiting. We can check back actually on the Euro US dollar whilst we wait, just to see if anything major is happening here. Potentially trading us down into some form of demand. Obviously this is the zone that I'd like, but there's no obvious zone. Like obviously this is a clear sell to buy with some inefficiency. There is no clear sell to buy with inefficiency other than arguably this region here, which is price has already blown through, or region at which we had the lower time frame accumulation. As you can see, every single market right now is just consolidating. Obviously, was this Great British Pound Australian? Yeah, consolidating. It seems like price doesn't want to follow that bias, which is completely fine. Strange, because we were delivered the displacement, which would, to me, indicate that we do want to go bullish, but we haven't, so it is what it is. We sort of just wait now to see if price gives us a more confirmed bias or gives us something more solid to look to trade from. So I'm now just going to set an alert at 160.217, and I'm going to leave the market until that level is potentially broken. This is no longer looking nice to me, so unless we see something like that get broken or happen, we're going to actually avoid looking to trade that. So yeah, price falling through, so we could now look to go bearish on this market. So I've seen this, we want to see this low get broken, so we just want to see this low penetrated, because obviously, yeah. Yeah, well, price has literally just done that, so we can now look to go short on this market. So just as a reminder, we can throw the green flag on that. Okay, it appears actually that we have now hit final target or partial. Okay, which is very nice. On the 15-second, we could probably potentially trade this down into maybe somewhere in that region. Not actually too confirmed. I think that is probably the nicer region, so nothing obvious yet. Obviously get rid of that because we know price has already tapped us into that. Do we just get the very top of that? Yep, we do get the tap. Okay. As I stated, there isn't that much volatility, so it's making this live session hard to really run through. I know last time we were very lucky with it because we literally just had constant volatility and we could keep looking to reanalyze, re-enter, and update the market as it goes. But honestly, for the last 50 minutes to an hour, it's been so unvolatile. So I think we'll probably actually look to round this stream off. If anybody is still here, make sure just to ask any final questions or any final comments that you have, throw them through. If not, we'll look to round it up. But yeah, this is just pretty much what we've been looking at on Euro USD today. I do not want to publish my idea. Waiting for price to eventually tap us up into one of these supply zones higher. We've obviously had displacements here, so we've had an impulse up, a correction back down, within the next impulsive wave higher in my eyes. So hoping to ride price up to at least this region. That would be nice. But if not, we'll look to tackle the market any other way. And just a nice little update that we could have actually got involved in quite a few nice sell positions. So after displacing that, could have looked to take this last buy to sell from that. Obviously we never got full tap from this region, but for example this level, so this last buy to sell taps into, so there were some intermediary selling opportunities there, as well as some buying opportunities that are potentially presenting themselves. But as stated, thank you everybody who has watched live, or to anybody who is watching the stream back on the channel. Appreciate the support. If you're not already in the Learning Lounge, definitely make sure to get yourself in there because it is a great place full of free information and gives you a lot of free knowledge. But with that being said, let's look to round this up, and I will be updating the guys in the VIP chat about what's happened, how we've tackled this, and how we're looking to tackle it moving forward. So thank you everybody for watching, and we'll catch you the next time we are live doing another LAGFX live trading session.